My name is Mickey Boyd, and we created an auto sculpture.
We'll be talking about this collective sculpture that me and the others did about a week and a half ago.
As a group, we made a sculpture, basically. Yeah, that's what it was. We met at Mickey's house. It was very hot.
We did it on a really nice day. It was very sunny, not very warm. Well, it was warm, not too warm. And it wasn't super humid. It was pretty green. I would say in general, very nice weather. It's kind of what you want.
It was around like 4 in the afternoon, so it wasn't like too hot for everyone else. It was way too hot for me.
It was really hot out, and earlier that day I had been in long pants, but then I switched into shorts. But I didn't change my shoes, and I was wearing Gucci shoes, and I was a little bummed about that because I didn't want to get them wrecked, but it was fine. I put them in the wash and they're all good. So I did it with shorts, Gucci shoes, and I think just a tank top or something.
Mickey had provided us an open space at his place outside, and we were all going to meet there. Me and Dawson got there a little bit early, so we were waiting for Mickey and Rachel to get there, probably maybe 10 minutes.
Me and Rachel got out to my house, and Andrew and Dawson were already there, and they were there a little earlier than us, and when we got out there, we started unloading all of our materials and took them out to this field on my property.
Yeah, so we got there, we kind of like scouted out the site. We were going to do it in this back area that was really big and spanning, but then decided to go a bit closer to the house and this smaller clearing. And when we got there, we brought all the materials over there, lugged them over there, and then
Mickey had like a field outside his house that we walked back to, a little clearing that we used to build the structure, the sculpture, whatever it is. And I brought basically like a radiator and some duct tape, and aluminum foil, saran wrap, various random stuff. And Mickey brought wood and screws wood planks and wood circles and screws. Rachel brought flacking tape and other materials that we used to attach it together. Some boxes, I think, and then Andrew brought some boxes, some old t-shirts and water bottles and stuff like that. It was just a lot of random objects, kind of.
We all brought our own materials, just anything that could potentially be useful. Mickey had brought a bunch of wooden slacks. Rachel had brought flaking tape. Dawson, he brought saran wrap, aluminum foil, and this radiator that wasn't being used anymore. I brought like a ton of flattened cardboard boxes, empty plastic bottles, some very old soccer jerseys of mine.
we all brought different materials. So I had brought some flaking tape of red in color, and Andrew brought a bunch of plastic bottles and old sold clothes and different things, like, and boxes, a bunch of Amazon boxes. I guess he shops on Amazon a lot. And then Dawson brought a radiator from his apartment that they were throwing away, and Mickey brought a bunch of pieces of wood, repurposed from a big shipping crate that used to house that had housed a painting that was sold by some professional established artist that sold for $100,000, which is a pretty decent chunk. So potentially the shipping crate would have been worth something, but now it has been torn apart and was used for a sculpture.
Started constructing the sculpture, and we started with the rigid materials, wood that I had cut into a bunch of slats and some circles made of wood that we then sort of started to assemble into large pillars with open tops. And from each of those from the first pillar, we had planks on the ground, which Rachel had tied together with flaking tape. That went to a second pillar, also with open top. And then there was a slightly smaller pillar. And then that went to a third pillar. That was the smallest pillar, that had planks that went in between them, that were then also connected together with flaking tape.
After we had gotten all three of them up, we kind of wrapped flaking tape around all three of them, connecting all three of them together, and it was kind of like this 3D like line work that was happening. And for two of the pillars, we filled them up with some things. One of them we put all the plastic bottles in. Another one we put large like branches with like leaves and stuff in the top. And the last one, I think Dawson wrapped his saran wrap all around.
And then decided to make a bridge over from two of the pillars, and kind of did that without like a supporting beam in the center. And then we hung a bunch of clothes on it, like a clothesline, but then it caused the whole structure to collapse. So then quickly rebuilt the structure and added a vertical bracing so that the bridge could exist.
We were going to build like a separate kind of path, like the actual wood that we had, extending from like the middle kind of pillar. But we moved it to the other side because there was this giant ant pile that I had stepped in like unknowingly, and there's just ants crawling over my shoe and like on my leg.
And then there was another pathway that went back the opposite way from the center one, that had some A-frames over it, and then they had another A-frame built on the back that then I built a spacesuit, and I wore a spacesuit that then I was sitting in some cardboard boxes. That was kind of my seat and everything. I sat in there, and then this whole thing became a spaceship, and it took off.
By then we were having trouble making sure they're together, so Mickey got drilled screws onto the top portion just to increase the structure, the sturdiness of it, and we got a couple planks and attached it from the top, so it was basically like almost made like a triangle, so it was like the big one, the medium one, and the small one, with the planks running to it. And while that was happening, we were talking about, you know, the possibility, since it's like an open field and it's kind of strange what we were doing. We were talking about the idea of like just discussing various things like aliens and like the possibility of like an alien structure that it was built kind of like
Started talking about space travel and extraterrestrial kind of life looking down on us, and kind of talked a bit about how when the pandemic started, it was like released from NASA, or the scientists or whatever, that aliens were real and they'd actually communicated with them and come to Earth before, but like nobody cared because the pandemic was happening.
Right about then we kind of came up with the idea of like, okay, this could be like a spaceship. We can maybe like make it into a spaceship. And we kind of, after that, we kind of just went in that direction. We kind of pushed ourselves in that direction.
We spent a lot of time talking about UFOs, aliens, and stuff like that. All that talk kind of led to us wanting to build a spaceship, and that's what we did. So our final thing ended up being a spaceship.
Mickey kind of put the boxes around, it became like, it was like a spacesuit. And then we kind of got like ready for takeoff and built like a little pedestal seat that Mickey was going to sit in, and then the rest of us kind of, I had like a position like on one of the bridge area, not the bridge areas, like the pathway areas wrapped in the flaking tape. So if the thing did take off, I might not have been able to stay on, but maybe. So kind of like one of the travelers had a bit more security, I would say, in the flight than the rest of us. And then the thing took off and the boxes kind of flew behind and the seat crumbled.
Yeah, and that was our structure. It was basically more or less like a spaceship. We ran some wire around one section of it just to kind of, just because we felt like it, I guess. And took a break, went to eat, and later we came back and used the radiator that I brought to destroy it. We threw it at it and it hit one column and it was like a domino effect. They all kind of fell over in one hit, and then we disassembled it and went about our ways.
And why did we do it? Just to get to collaboratively build something with like the auto construction technique. It's a way that I really like building on my own, and it's really fun. It was really fun to do with other people, and yeah, fun to be outside. I think, yeah, a bunch of us I maybe got a sunburn, and maybe they did too, I don't know. But just nice to get together, and I like that I can never say it again.
We wanted something that didn't exist physically, but more so like in our minds, in our memories. So I kind of feel like the actual artwork that we made was not the sculpture itself, but more of our recollection of our experience in the process of making it. And that includes like thinking about what we made, how we made it, how we felt while we made it.
I think it kind of centered around the idea of like what we were discussing while we were doing it. Just the random conversations and topics we talked about while we were making it kind of helped us to develop it into like what it ended up being, which is a spaceship essentially, or a spaceship sculpture. That's what it ended up being essentially. It's just a spaceship kind of, or what we thought looked like a spaceship. But I think that's why it ended up being that way. It's just the way conversations we had and what we talked about, just subject matter we discussed at the time, and it just pushed us in that direction.
And we did it because we wanted an artwork that didn't exist physically. It didn't exist in the physical world. Like an artwork that it could only like live on, its only legacy was in like our minds as the creators. And I found it kind of like liberating as a sculptor or as an artist in general to make something that doesn't have a physical legacy, that doesn't have a physical footprint or exist physically ever again. It only exists in like our memory and in the words that I'm saying. Huh?
Take two.
Yeah. Take 2.
Case.
Very nice weather.